In this lesson, we will be learning the technical jargon used to talk about the Latin language. Now let's define case. Case is a grammatical term used to talk about the use of a noun in a sentence. It is often associated with a specific inflection. Let's see how that works with what we already know. We know that the inflections a, r, and us are used for subjects and predicate nouns. In Latin, we refer to nouns that are subjects or predicate nouns and which use these endings as being in the nominative case. What is the nominative case? It's the noun that is the subject or predicate noun in a sentence and uses one of the subject or predicate noun endings. Let's look at another example. We know that AE is used for a noun that is receiving something in a sentence or an indirect object. In Latin, we say that such a noun is in the dative case. So dative simply means indirect object. Finally, we have learned that AM, UM, and EM are inflectional endings used on nouns that are the direct object in a sentence. In Latin, we say that nouns with these endings on them are in the accusative case, which simply means that they are being used as a direct object. That's what case is. Do you think you can explain it in your own words? If not, listen to this section again or keep listening with the idea in mind that you want to be able to define what case is in your own words. On the list of cases, the next one is the genitive case. Can you say the name of the case? Practice it with me. Genitive. The genitive function of a noun, according to the Roman way of thinking, is actually split into two categories. Nouns that show possession are considered genitive. And when we want to express an idea with of in English, the noun following it is seen as genitive by the Romans. Let's look at some examples in English so we can understand how the Romans thought about it. In the first example, we see the classic way of representing possession in English, an apostrophe S on the end of the name Johnson's. Romans didn't have punctuation. That's right, no punctuation. Instead, to show possession, they would use a specific inflection. That inflection is the genitive inflection, or the genitive case. In addition to not having any punctuation, the Romans also did not have a word for of. So how do you express the word of in Latin if it doesn't exist? The Roman solution was to use an inflection. The inflection that is used to express the idea of is the genitive inflection. Let's look at these examples. The queen of the land has always been kind. I need three words of the land to express that idea of where the queen is from in English. But in Latin, all I would have to do is write land with the genitive inflection. The same is true in the final sentence. Most of the students read only half of the book. Most of what? In order to express that in English, I need three words of the students. Latin, just one. Students with the genitive inflection. Half of what? Half of the book. Three words in English, only one in Latin. Book, with the genitive inflection. But what is the genitive inflection? We don't know any of them right now, but check this out. When you look at a Latin vocabulary list, the second form of the noun given to you is the genitive. That's right, each of these words can be used in a sentence to show possession or with the idea of. So if I want to say of the girl or the girl's friend is the queen, I use the word puellae. The same would be true for servi, pueri, oppidi, regis, eunonis, and nominis. They can all be translated into English by adding an apostrophe S onto the end of them, or by placing of in front of them. I bet some of you are wondering, if the second word is for the genitive form or the possessive form of the noun, what's the first word for on the vocabulary list? That's a great question. That first word is the nominative form of the noun. That means that puella, servus, puer, oppidum, rex, and nomen are all words that can be used as subjects or predicate nouns in a Latin sentence. We have talked about the dative case and the accusative case earlier because we have already learned inflections for the recipient of an object and for the direct object. But the accusative case, as you can see from the case use column, has another use besides that of the direct object, and that is an object of a preposition. How will we be able to distinguish between a direct object and an object of a preposition? The simple answer is that a preposition has to come in front of the noun that is the object of that preposition. Let's take a look at a list of prepositions that must be followed by accusative case nouns. You can find this list in the Resources and Handout folder in Chapter 3 or attached to this page. Here is the list. Latin prepositions followed by nouns in the accusative case. You can see it's kind of long, and it's a very important list to learn. One of the things that you will be held responsible for in this chapter is to make sure that you know the meanings of each of these prepositions and that it takes the accusative case. These are the Latin words you must learn to look for whenever you see an accusative case noun in a sentence. If you see any one of them in front of that accusative case noun, you are looking at a prepositional phrase and not the direct object of a sentence. The next case name on our list is the ablative case. Say the name with me. Ablative. Please make sure to write down that it is an object of a preposition and save some space because there is also another way that the ablative case can be used. Here is a list of Latin prepositions that must be followed by nouns in the ablative case. It is important that you learn what these prepositions are and what they mean. Just like the accusative case prepositions, you will see these in a Latin sentence, and there will be an ablative case noun following it. The other use for the ablative case is for it to function like an adverb or adverbially. This is something that is unique to Latin. We cannot do this in English. In order to make a noun function like an adverb in English, we actually have to use it as the object of a preposition. But Latin doesn't have to. It can use the noun all by itself. Let's take a look at these sentences. In the first sentence, the word water follows the preposition with. But instead of writing with in Latin, all we're going to have to do is write the word water in the ablative case. The idea of with will be understood. The same is true for swords and large stones. If you look at each of these sentences and read them, what you begin to understand is that the word stones, for example, is not accompanying the subject and completing the action with the subject, but it is the instrument or the means or the method that the subject is using to complete the action. And that's really an adverb, because an adverb talks about how an action is completed. And so that is why the Romans choose to take the nouns in these sentences that are in yellow and simply write them in the ablative case, because they are the instrument or the method or the means by which the subject is able to complete the action. The final case name on our list is the vocative case. Say the name with me. Vocative. The vocative case is used for direct address. Whenever I greet you in the morning with Salvete Discipuli, Discipuli is addressing you, the class, and so that noun is in the vocative case. In each of these sentences, the noun in yellow would be written in the vocative case because each one is being addressed. So this is our list of case names and case uses. It is your responsibility to make sure that you know the use of each of the cases and what the order of the cases is in. It is also your responsibility to know the abbreviation that can be used for each case. As you see on this screen, you can simply use the first 3 letters of each case name as its abbreviation. There's been a lot to learn in this lesson, and you're going to be doing a lot of practice with the items that are in it so you can get familiar and comfortable with them before we have our test. Class is now dismissed.